Good morning and welcome to the recess meeting of the Will County Board for April the 19th, 2012. We will call this meeting to order. If everyone would please stand and be led in the pledge to the flag by County Board Member Denise Winfrey, who then will introduce our clergy for this morning.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Executive, fellow board members, I have the pleasure this morning to introduce Teresa Washington from the Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church in District 8. Ms. Teresa Washington. Sorry. Teresa is actually from Mount Olive.
Thank you. Father, in the name of Jesus, we come once again to say thank you. We thank you, Lord, for this day that you have made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. And Father, you said that we should pray for those that are in leadership and authority over us. So that's what we're doing today, God. We're just lifting up these people, Father God, that's coming to do the work that you've called them to do for such a time as now. And we pray, Father God, in the name of Jesus, that everything will be done decently and in order, the way that you ordained it. So we just thank you, and we pray, Father, that you just be with each speaker, Father God, each leader, each director, anybody that has anything to do with the cities that surrounds this area. And for that, God, we're just so grateful. So we just thank you today. We praise you and we just magnify your name because, God, you are truly worthy to be praised. These and other blessings, Lord, we ask in your Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Washington.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Sure. Bellotta. Adamick. Here. Deutsch. Here. Howard. Here. Singer. Here. Izzo. Here. Weigel. Here. Drayle. Here. Thank you. Hart. Here. McPhillips. Here. Custa. Here. Mayor. Trainier. Here. Argadelis. Goodson. Brian Smith, here. Gould, here. May, here. Rozak, here. Konecki, Zagrozi, Brooks, here. Winfrey, here. Babich, Wilhelmy, here. And Mustis. Here. Thank you.
22 present, 4 absent.
22 present, 4 absent. A quorum is established. Entertain to place on file certificate of publication. Moved by Mr. Brooks, second by Ms. Trainier. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Sure. Adamick, Deutsch, yes. Howard, yes. Singer, yes. Izzo, yes. Weigel, yes. Drayle, yes. Hart, yes. McPhillips, yes. Custa, yes. Trainier, yes. Goodson, yes. Smith, yes. Gould, yes. May, Rozak, yes. Konecki, yes. Zagrozi, yes. Brooks, yes. Winfrey,
yes.
Wilhelmy, yes. And Mustis. Yes. Thank you.
22 affirmative.
22 affirmative. Motion has carried. Next item on our agenda is the appointment of a new county board member, Mr. Adamick.
Thank you, Mr. Executive. I would like to move that we appoint Henry Travis to County Board District 8. Henry Travis, as you all know, was on the board for a number of years and had gotten off the board because his wife fell ill and wanted to take care of her, which I think was a very noble thing. Henry Travis was a good board member, and passed, and I'm sure he'll do a fine job in replacement of Frank Stewart, who passed on. I would like us all to welcome Henry Travis.
Moved by Mr. Adamick, second by Mr. Brooks. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Adamick?
Yes.
Deutsch? Yes. Howard? Yes. Singer? Yes. Izzo? Yes. Weigel? Yes. Drayle? Yes. Hart? Yes. McPhillips? Yes. Costa? Yes. Trainier? Yes. Goodson? Yes. Smith? Yes. Gould? Yes. May? Yes. Rozak? Yes. Konecki? Yes. Zagrozi?
Yes.
Brooks?
Absolutely.
Winfrey? Yes. Wilhelmy? Yes. And Mustis?
Yes.
Thank you.
22 affirmative.
Yeah, welcome back.
22 affirmative. Mr. Henry Travis has been approved to serve the remainder of County Board Member Stewart's term. Welcome back, Henry Travis. Would you please come forward, Henry, and Nancy, our Madam Clerk, Boots will swear you in.
Henry, I'm very happy to swear you in again. Very happy. Okay, all you have to do is repeat after me. And after I say I, state your name. I, Henry Travis.
I,
You have to
Henry
say your name.
Travis.
Okay. Have been appointed
had been appointed
to the office of County Board,
to the office of County Board,
member of the Commissioner
many of the Commission,
of the Forest Preserve District
the Forest Preserve District,
in the County of Will,
and the County of Will,
in the State of Illinois,
in the State of Illinois,
do solemnly swear
I solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
in the County Board District 8
and County Board District 8,
of the Forest Preserve District
in the Forest Preserve District,
of the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. How about a hug? Okay, you just have to sign here, Henry. Right here. Thank you. Congratulations again.
Thank you, thank you.
Henry, you want to make a couple of comments? Use the microphone.
Yes, well, I really thank the board for what they have did. You know, it was on my mind to get back on the board. So, with all goodness, I got a chance to get on the board before I thought of it. So I'm happy. I hated I left the board, but I had to leave. And the way I left, I would do it again if I have to, because my wife comes first. Everything else comes second. And you know, I was just depressed, but I visit my wife every day. And before she went into the nursing home, before she really got where she is now, I told her, I said, well, I don't think I'll run because I'm going to stay here and take care of you. She said, no, run. Go ahead and run. I'm okay. I said, well, who's going to take care of you? She says, I am, until you get back. So I didn't run. She didn't like it because I didn't run. But I think I did the best thing. I hope I did anyway. And I just want to appreciate the support that people have given me. And I want to appreciate the support that I'm getting from the county board. You know, if I don't think I have an enemy in here. I don't believe I have an enemy in here. But, you know, things go on. Time goes on. And I'm proud to be back. I'm just happy. You know, last night I couldn't sleep. I told my daughter, I said, wake me up in the morning, because I thought I was going to oversleep. I didn't oversleep. She came over there this morning to see was I up, and I had done got a shower, and they're cooking my breakfast, getting ready to come. So I'm happy to be back, and I'm proud that I'm with a group that thinks the way I do. The best thing for the peoples. And that's what we're here for, to serve the peoples. And I thank each and every one of you for supporting me and having me back. And thank you again. Good luck.
Motion to be in order to approve the minutes of the February 16, 2012 County Board meeting, of February 16, 2012 executive session, and minutes of the March 15th board meeting, March 15, 2012. Motion be in order. Moved by Mr. Adamick, second by Ms. May. Any questions? Previous roll call by Ms. Rozak for the minutes? Okay, we need a roll call. Roll call vote. Madam Clerk, call roll.
Adamick? Deutsch? Howard? Singer? Izzo? Weigel? Drayle? Hart? McPhillips? Costa? Trainier? Goodson? Smith? Gould? May? Rozak? Konecki? Zagrozi? Brooks? Travis? Thank you. Winfrey? Wilhelmy? And Mustis.
23 affirmative.
23 affirmative, motion is carried. Madam Clerk, would you please acknowledge our elected officials and the media that is present this morning?
Sure. Our Auditor Duffy Blackburn, Circuit Clerk Pam McGuire, County Clerk Nancy Schultz-Foots, our County Executive Larry Walsh, Recorder of Deeds Karen A. Stuckel, Sheriff Paul Kopis, our State's Attorney James Glasgow, and our Treasurer Steve Weber. Media, we have Nick Ryer from Farmers Weekly Review, Tony Graff from the Herald News, and Alice Fabry from Trib Local. Welcome.
Thank you. Citizens will be heard. They will be heard at the appropriate time. Moving on to honorary resolutions and proclamations. Mr. Don Gould will have a proclamation to read this morning. Mr. Gould.
Good morning, Mr. Executive. How are you?
Morning, Don.
I have a proclamation this morning recognizing May 2nd, 2012 as Healthcare Worker Appreciation Day. Whereas healthcare organizations of the Chicago area, including Will County, are both dedicated and committed to providing quality care for their communities, and whereas all members of the healthcare team, nurses, allied health professionals, support staff, financial services personnel, administration, physicians, and volunteers are recognized as a vital component to providing the very best health care available. And whereas these individuals' contributions not only enhance but reinforce the well-being of communities throughout Will County, and whereas the more than 150 hospitals and healthcare organizations that are Metropolitan Chicago Healthcare Council members wish to pay homage to healthcare workers for their unwavering commitment and contributions at work and in their communities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Will County Board and the Will County Executive do hereby designate May 2nd, 2012 as Healthcare Worker Appreciation Day in Will County. Be it further resolved that the Will County Board and the Will County Executive urge all residents to recognize the many contributions of healthcare workers. Signed, Lawrence M. Walsh, Will County Executive. Attest, Nancy Schultz-Foots, Will County Clerk. I so move.
Moved by Mr. Gould, second by Ms. Rozak. Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don. All resolutions from the March 15, 2012 County Board agenda have been signed by the County Executive. Moving on to new business, Land Use and Development Committee, Mr. Weigel, Chairman.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Tom.
First is to open our public hearing for all land use cases. I'll make a motion.
Moved by Mr. Weigel, second by Ms. Trainier. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Sure. Adamick? Deutsch? Howard? Singer? Izzo? Weigel?
Yes.
Drayle? Hart? McPhillips? Costa? Trainier? Goodson? Smith? Gould? May? Rozak? Konecki? Zagrozi? Brooks? Travis? Winfrey? Wilhelmy? And Mustis. Thank you.
23 affirmative.
23 affirmative. We are in public hearing. Please be advised, absolutely no new evidence or information will be allowed once this land use public hearing is closed. Cases to be heard this morning are case 6034-S, 6035-MSV5, and case 6037-MV2. Do we have any speakers? Anyone from the general public wish to speak on any of these cases? Anyone here that wishes to speak on any of these cases? Anyone here to speak on any of these zoning cases? Mr. Weigel.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Moved by Mr. Weigel, second by Mr. Costa. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Sure. Adamick? Deutsch? Howard? Singer? Izzo? Weigel?
Yes.
Drayle? Hart? McPhillips? Costa? Trainier? Goodson? Smith? Gould? May? Rozak? Konecki? Zagrozi? Brooks? Travis? Winfrey? Wilhelmy? And Mustis. Thank you.
23 affirmative.
23 affirmative. The public hearing has been closed. Mr. Weigel, continue.
The first case, 6034-S, is in Wilmington Township, a special use permit for a residence on a non-conforming leased land with one condition. This is a rebuild of an existing house. Committee recommends approval, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Weigel, second by Ms. May. Any questions? Any questions? Motion for previous roll call by Mr. Brooks, second by Ms. Winfrey. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion is carried.
Next case, 6035-MSV5. This is in Lockport Township to allow for a storage facility. First motion is for a map amendment from I-3 and R2 to I-2 for parcel 1 and 2. Committee recommends approval, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Weigel, second by Mr. Smith. Any questions? Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Wilhelmy, second by Ms. Deutsch. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion is carried.
For this same case, we need a special use permit for self-storage facility that includes indoor and outdoor storage on parcel 1 and 2 with 8 conditions. Committee recommends approval, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Weigel, second by Mr. Gould. Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Adamick, second by Mr. Travis. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion is carried.
The next motion for the same case is a variance from the building height from 12 feet to 16 feet on parcel 2. Committee recommends approval, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Weigel, second by Ms. McPhillips. Any questions? Previous roll call by Mr. Brooks, second by Ms. Trainier. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion is carried.
Next case, 6037-MV2. This is in New Lenox Township. It's a map amendment from A1 to E2 on parcel 2. This is to allow for building of a residence on a 2.7-acre parcel. Committee recommends approval, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Weigel, second by Ms. Hart. Any questions? Previous roll call by Mr. Howard, second by Ms. May. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion is carried.
That concludes the zoning cases. Now we have the resolutions. Our first item is the neighborhood Fairmont Neighborhood Plan presentation. Senior Planner Steve Lazara will introduce the consultants who will give a brief PowerPoint on the Fairmont Neighborhood Plan.
Thank you. Good morning, County Board members, County Executive Walsh. This is something that I'm very excited about as a staff planner and as a county representative, being part of the Land Use Department. But I want to begin with the most important part, and that is saying thanks to some of the people that are involved in this neighborhood plan. First and foremost, our county executive, who lets us go forward, Mr. Larry Walsh, and work on these type of projects. his chief of staff, Nick Palmer, who always seems to be able to bail me out of all my jams, our county board member and chairman, Mr. Jim Eustace, and our land use chairman, Mr. Tom Weigel, who do an excellent job of teaching us about protocol and how to bring resolutions and plans forward to you guys and take it through all the necessary hurdles. They've done a wonderful job of teaching me. I'm very grateful. And then, of course, we've had some county board members that have attended our meetings and really helped out in it. Reverend Brooks, Ms. Winfrey, Ms. Zagrosi, Ms. Konecki, Mr. Adamick, and Ms. McPhillips-Weglars. They've all attended meetings and kind of shared input. It goes without saying that Mr. Stewart continues to guide us from above. But most importantly, and this is almost a term of endearment that I share, Mr. Henry Travis, who really has taught me about community and the history. I've often called Mr. Travis my third grandpa, and I say that again coming from the heart, all the things that he shared. One of the things where we're going to begin is learning about the history in the community after we have this plan adopted. And the first person, of course, I'm going to go to is my third grandpa, Mr. Travis. He's been an excellent mentor. Our land use department has a long relationship with the Fairmont community that began over 10 years ago. And listening to that community, we realized that it functions almost like a small municipality with its own identity, its own needs, and its own concerns. As you know, we have a comprehensive plan, our land resource management plan, which does an excellent job of addressing undeveloped land, how to convert it to subdivisions, how to convert it to commercial districts, etc. But these small pockets that we have like Fairmont, it really doesn't address the needs of a small community. In realizing that, our county staff approached CMAP for a local technical assistance grant. And what that is basically free money in terms of staff support that would help us develop a plan. We were one of the first recipients, and I believe we're the first plan that's going to be taken all the way through all of the steps and be adopted. And staff, of course, is very grateful for the relationship we've developed with CMAP. Most importantly, their executive director, Mr. Randy Blankenhorn, who's here today, and the two project managers, Mr. Trevor Dick and Samantha Robinson. In calling them colleagues, again, it's a weak term, they really became friends to our department. They've really done an excellent job in helping capture the vision that the land use department wanted to share. They got it on paper, and we're going to have a small presentation, talk about it, and then hopefully we're going to get a positive vote from all of you. So thank you very much. Trevor and Samantha, come on down.
As they're coming down, I would like to recognize and welcome Randy Blankenhorn, the Executive Director of CMAP. Randy, would you thank you very much for what you've done for us down here and the attention that you have given this project, and it's been great working with you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Steve, for the kind words. Good morning, Mr. Executive and County Board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this morning about the Fairmont Neighborhood Plan. My name is Trevor Dick, Senior Planner for this project. Also joining me is Samantha Robinson and Mr. Randy Blankenhorn. And we've had the pleasure of working with the Land Use Department over the last 10 months to create this neighborhood plan for the Fairmont community. The plan represents the residents' vision for where they'd like to see themselves in the next 10 or 15 years and provides strategies to achieve those goals. My brief presentation this morning is to include the purpose of the neighborhood plan, review the planning process undertaken to complete the plan, provide a summary of the key community outreach activities that were undertaken, provide a brief overview of the existing conditions in Fairmont, and lastly, provide a highlight of the plan's key recommendations. As Steve said, the Land Use Department wanted a more detailed sub-area plan for Fairmont. The more detailed sub-area plan will serve as a component of the long-range master plan. The plan is to provide a guiding document for you as elected officials, county staff, residents, business owners, potential developers in Fairmont in making land use decisions, capital improvement decisions, and infrastructure decisions. The plan is not set in stone. It's meant to be flexible. It can adapt with change. And the plan also impacts land use, parks and open space, transportation, housing, and commercial development. First, a bit of background on the Fairmont community. Fairmont is the unincorporated area between the cities of Lockport and Joliet, just south of Delwood Park, east of Route 171. Let's see if my laser pointer works here. Here's 171 running north and south. Joliet here, Lockport here, Delwood Park. The Fairmont community is approximately 2 miles by 2 miles and has approximately 2,500 residents. For those familiar with the area, this is the location of the Fairmont Community Center and the Fairmont Elementary School. The neighborhood is primarily single-family detached homes, but also includes many community facilities, which really help it create a strong, unique image and identity. Although the neighborhood has a strong and rich history, over the last decade there's been several issues that have started to emerge, such as aging infrastructure, an aging population, an increase in vacancies, and also areas that are experiencing flooding. This graphic here shows the existing land use pattern in Fairmont today. You can see in this area here, this is pretty much the built-up area of Fairmont, and the gray represents vacancies. Between the U.S. Census and our field inventory, there's approximately 1 out of every 9 homes in the Fairmont community is vacant. So that's a real big issue. When you move to the east of the community center in this area, much of the study area is agricultural land. The new Shiloh community, the Shiloh Church is in this location, for example. And Briggs Road here has some light industrial uses such as landscaping businesses, etc. There are several vacant properties and structures, and I'll talk more about how we're going to look at fixing those in a couple minutes. This slide here shows briefly the community facilities. I think it's really important to show this because the community facilities in Fairmont are so well dispersed. Not only is there the community center and the elementary school, but there's 11 churches in this area. So those together really provide a strong identity for Fairmont. The planning process, this graphic here shows you over the last 10 months, the process we used, which was looking at existing conditions, working with the community to come up with a vision where they want to see, and lastly, coming up with an implementation strategy. We didn't want to create just another plan that maybe sits on a shelf or collects dust. We want to make sure that when the community has this plan and their power, as well as you as the board, you can actually do something with it. The public process was really the foundation of the planning process, and I just wanted to highlight for you some of the key community outreach activities that were completed. To assist us, I wanted to talk quickly about the steering committee. To assist us in this plan, a steering committee was formed. The steering committee was created with longtime residents, with business owners, with representatives of the school, the park district, and also county board member representatives. Ms. Denise Winfrey, Reverend Herbert Brooks, the late Mr. Frank Stewart, and Mr. Henry Travis. So I wanted to thank you, of course, for your time and efforts in that steering committee. That steering committee was our sounding board throughout the last 10 months. We bounced ideas off of them and made sure that what we were coming up with was what the Fairmont community wanted. This is a list, and I won't read them all, but you can see there was a lot of opportunities, a lot of different ways for the public to be engaged. At the first public meeting, actually, at the community center, the manager of the community center took me to the side and said, "Trevor, there's approximately 100 people in this room, and I just want to tell you this is the most number of Fairmont residents I've ever seen in one room in my life." So he wanted to thank me for doing that. And throughout all our public meetings, they were all very well attended. The visioning workshop had over 100. The open house we had over 100. So we had a very, very good public input. The last 2 bullet points I just wanted to mention were we presented to the Land Use Committee, Land Use Development Committee, where we had a public open house. And a couple of weeks ago, presented to the Executive Committee. And now we are here this morning. I'm briefly now going to walk us through some of the key recommendations of the plan. In a plan as big as this, it's about 80 pages. It's impossible for me to talk about everything, but I just wanted to highlight some of the big ones. The first part I wanted to talk about here is how the plan is organized. It's separated into 4 separate sections. The first is a reinvestment section. That section presents a future land use plan. with a particular focus on a new neighborhood center in Fairmont. The residents of Fairmont really wanted to see a place where there could be new housing, where there could be new neighborhood commercial opportunities, new parks and open space, something that would be a focal point for people to meet, gather, and to really say that this is our own neighborhood center. The next section is the infrastructure section. As I talked about at the beginning, there are a lot of concerns about flooding, aging infrastructure. So this plan here, or this section of the plan, really talks about the physical improvements, new sidewalks, new bus shelters, how to deal with flooding and the aging infrastructure. I know Steve and his staff have been very successful already in receiving a grant for a new sidewalk, and I think sidewalk construction is going to be starting soon. Once things like that start to happen, residents in Fairmont, I mean, the timing couldn't be any better for the plan. That's going to make them say, you know what, it was good we went to those meetings. We're starting to see things happen in our community. The third section is the image and identity. As Steve and both Mr. Travis know, the area has a very rich history. But one thing we found when we were doing the process is there was nothing really written down. So one of the first recommendations is to do a formal documentation process, interview people such as Mr. Travis, I'm sure, to document the history of the community. Generations have lived in that area, and there's nothing really formally written down. So we think that would really help support their image and identity, and also some streetscape improvements. Lastly, the fourth section is the governance section. There's no specific recommendation about the future governance of the area given. It just talks about the inherent challenges of planning for such a quote-unquote urban area in an unincorporated environment. This here is the future land use map, and I'll just talk about some of the key features of the plan. One thing you'll see here is all the vacant spaces, all that gray is gone. The plan really focuses on infill development, trying to get residents to move back into those vacant lots, to fill up those vacant homes. And before we grow out to the east, for example, we want to make sure that the area that's there right now has infill development. We want to establish a new neighborhood center. This is the existing community center right now, and it's surrounded by vacant properties. This is the new Shiloh Church, but the idea is to create a new neighborhood center south of Oak, east of Green Garden Place in this area. The plan also talks about providing new senior housing. We heard a lot about the residents saying, Trevor, we want to live in this community after we no longer want to maintain our single-family detached home. We want places where we can live, that we can maintain, and we can still stay close to our church and close to our friends. So we provide new senior housing opportunities. And we also add new parks, especially with a lot of vacancies. It's almost a very easy process, we think, to start to add in new neighborhood parks, which will really help strengthen a lot of the neighborhoods in this area. This section here, or this graphic, actually shows a conceptual site plan of what a new neighborhood center could look like. The plan makes it loud and clear that it's not a development plan, but it's just a concept of what if everything the residents wanted us to put in a neighborhood center actually happened. Just to familiarize yourself, this is the existing community center here, Oak Street, Green Garden Place, and the majority of this area is currently vacant right now. The next slide shows a little bit more of an exciting picture. This is a bird's eye illustration of what a new neighborhood center could look like. Once again, this is Green Garden Place, Oak Avenue. Some of the key features on here show a new neighborhood center for commercial, the neighborhood commercial. New farmers market, for example, some new housing. This is the community center, and something that the residents really wanted us to talk about and put in the plan is community gardening. People saw that as not just an activity, but they also even saw it as an economic development tool, a place where maybe the community could grow their own fruits and vegetables and in turn sell it at a farmer's market. So surrounding the community center, we've added some garden plots in this area. This is the new Shiloh Church. I don't know how long I can keep saying it's new. It's been there about a year. But and then senior housing around this area. There's also parks and open space scattered throughout. This next graphic shows the transportation plan. I just wanted to talk about how the transportation plan looks not just at cars, but transit. There's bus lines that go through the community. Steve and his staff is already working with the township and PACE to get bus shelters in the community. That's something the residents wanted, and so I'm happy to hear that Steve and his group are working on that. We're also looking at pedestrian and bike improvements in this area, making sure people can walk safely in the area and ride their bicycle. This next plan is the trails plan. As I talked about the importance of trails and riding throughout the community, some things that we heard loud and clear from the residents is Delwood Park, which is the township's park district's biggest park, one of their biggest parks. If you ask residents of Fairmont where that park is, a lot of them didn't know it was even there or how to get there. So the plan talks about trying to create a more formalized connection, a trail connection, up Green Garden Place into Delwood Park. It's a tremendous asset and a resource. Even if there are some small directional signs that say park this way, for example, little things like that will go a long way in the community. The plan talks about sidewalks as well on just the main streets, particularly along Green Garden Place connecting to the school, making sure they're safe places for the students to walk. The last map I wanted to show is the parks plan. And we recommend adding new neighborhood park sites throughout the community. And what we did is we did a half-mile service radius around each park. And a half-mile service radius is really what's considered a walking distance, a safe and comfortable walking distance. So you can see with the new parks recommended that the majority of the community would be covered and all residents would have a park within walking distance. When we talk about new parks, we talk about them being small playgrounds, maybe just open space, maybe areas for local community gardening opportunities, and also stormwater management. To handle that stormwater that I talked about at the beginning, maybe there's some new stormwater detention ponds with native plantings, etc., in those areas. And that leads us into the infrastructure plan. Talking about the flooding, we talk about in the plan not just the traditional piping, if you will, which I know the township and the county are working towards, but also trying to get some green infrastructure techniques, making sure that the detention ponds have native plantings, help with the flooding, make sure there's bioswales, pervious paver parking lots created as development happens in the area. So I think a combination of more the traditional approach and the green approach can really help minimize flooding in the neighborhood. That concludes my presentation of the highlights of the plan. On behalf of our team and the rest of the Land Use Department, I want to thank you for the opportunity to present to you the key recommendations of the Fairmont Plan. We look forward to its adoption, and if you have any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
Any questions for Trevor? Yes, Mr. Brooks.
Trevor, have you set a time and date for the next meeting? I know I missed one. I just kind of like to know when they come up again.
No, there is no time set. I know Steve's going to start having meetings dealing with implementation and trying to keep the group together.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Konecki.
I just wanted to confirm it, but I'm also looking at the little version that you gave us, and it seems to be pretty clear that you visualized the Bruce Road, Caton Farm Road Bridge is actually coming east along Oak Avenue rather than Bruce, and then swinging north to Bruce sometime almost to, not quite as far as Briggs before it swings north.
Right.
That's a pretty major change. I assume you're working with our highway department on that plan.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, yeah, the drawing that's reflected in this of that potential bridge is the latest drawing that we received from the county engineer.
Ms. May.
I like the plan. Now I'd like to know, I know you're going to have more meetings, but do you have an actual timetable, what your steps are to actually implement this? I mean, is it like where you're going to get the funds for it, where you're going to get the investors for it? I know there was one gentleman at our land use meeting that said the unemployment is really bad, and that they needed jobs because once they had jobs, they can help improve their own homes and stuff. But is there an actual timetable of when this will be implemented?
Well, what the plan has is some implementation strategies. There's no real timetable attached to it. What we've been doing, because we've been working so closely with the land use department, it is definitely on their radar screens, and they've already started to be proactive in, I don't want to use the term low-hanging fruit, but for example, the sidewalks and the bus shelters. Those were some quote-unquote easier things of the plan to do. So they've already been proactive working towards that. Some of the things that will take longer, those unfortunately are going to have to be put in budgets. We're going to have to look for funding. The plan does identify potential funding sources. There's a lot of state and federal grants out there to make a lot of this happen. The other way a lot of this is going to happen is when development proposals come in, or even as property owners in that area become active and market their properties. This is a document they can use to say, this is what we want in our community. Or Mr. and Mrs. Developer, I know you have interest in Fairmont. The community's worked for 10 months, and this is what they'd like to see. For example, a small neighborhood grocery store at Oak and Green Garden. Are you interested, or do you know people who would like to do that? So I don't have a clear answer on strategy because there's a lot of variables, but we do lay out a roadmap that I think should be nicely followed by the staff, right, Steve?
Correct.
Yep.
Mr. Mustis.
Yeah, before the development turned on, we were starting to get interest in Fairmont. People were talking about because the lots are small, they came in talking about combining lots, putting maybe a little larger footprint of a home in the area. So I do think when things come back, there will be an interest from just the general market. But does the plan address, and I know I asked you this at the executive committee, but does the plan address diverse housing, strategies to perhaps keep younger people, they go away to college and they never come home because, they're perhaps, they don't come home. Even when they start their families, they don't come home. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that is due to there's just not the type of housing they're looking for. Their needs really aren't going to be met. So a more diverse housing stock. You talked about seniors, but how do we keep younger people coming, and how do we have upward mobile younger people come and put investment in the community, which I do think we're starting to see some signs of.
Right.
Does the plan really, does it address some of those strategies?
Yes, and those are very good points, and you're absolutely right. One of the points that you mentioned is about how as children were growing up, going to college, for example, the census data, the information shows that unfortunately, you're right, they aren't moving back or staying in the Fairmont community, they're moving on. I think that has a lot to do with jobs. It also has to do with the housing, you're right. The plan talks about a diversity of housing, and you're absolutely correct how important that is for a community such as Fairmont. We call it, quote-unquote, aging in place. Mm-hmm. And not just for seniors, but also for younger families. I know the land use department and Steve and Brian and Kurt have put a lot of work into the zoning ordinance to try and allow those homes that were maybe held back from being developed on those small, narrow parcels. I know the zoning ordinance has been updated or is being updated to allow homes to be built on those parcels. The affordability, I think, of smaller homes on smaller lots is definitely going to be attractive when the residential market does come back. And I think that would be attractive to younger families. Another thing the plan talks about is just not the importance of the housing, but the community facilities, the parks, the importance of the school, because as young families look around for places to live, those are the type of things they want and they look for. So I think the plan gets at all of those issues, and you're right, trying to attract younger families is just as important as maintaining the seniors.
Any other comments? Any other questions? Well, thank you, Trevor, very, very much, and Samantha, thank you. And Randy, definitely a big thank you to you for the acknowledgement and the interest here in our community. So,
thank you very much.
And Steve, thank you. Keep up the great work.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
We have a resolution then to adopt of this plan. I'd like to thank CMEP for their generous update of our plan for us. So I'd make a recommendation to approve resolution adopting the new elements of the Land Use Resource Management Plan entitled Fairmont Neighborhood Plan, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Weigel, second by Ms. McPhillips. Any questions? Previous roll call by Ms. Winfrey, second by Mr. Brooks. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried. Thank you, everyone.
I have one other resolution authorizing temporary use permit for soccer games on Sundays in Elwood from May 13th 2012 through September 30th, 2012. This is on a 10-acre parcel in Jackson Township along Route 53. Committee recommends approval, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Weigel, second by Mr. Gould. Any questions? Previous roll call by Mr. Adamick, second by Mr. Wilhelmy. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
That concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Weigel. Next, we move on to the Finance Committee. Mr. Custa, Chairman.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Ed.
Excuse me. Before I begin my agenda, I do have a couple of reports to place on file. The first report is from the Illinois Department of Revenue showing sales tax remitted to Will County for the month of February 2012 to be roughly $1.1 million. The RTA tax received is roughly $1.4 million. The second report is the monthly treasurer report dated February 29th, 2012, and the third and final report is the quarterly treasurer report dated December 1, 2011 through February 29, 2012, and I move to place those on file.
Moved by Mr. Custa, second by Mr. Smith. Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion is carried.
Next, I'd like to invite Duffy Blackburn down to the podium to give the auditor's quarterly report.
Hi. Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Custa. This is the quarterly report for the first quarter of 2012. On the website, I'm not, again, still not printing. And it's exciting to talk to you now. Yesterday, the Regional Superintendent of School, Jennifer Rotino-Torrance, Student Government Day filled this room with students. So if there's gum underneath your table, you know where it's at. And you guys look much more alive than they did. It was right after lunch, and I think they had too many candy bars. You can look at it on the bottom right-hand side of the viewer. More, if you click more, you can click and say full screen. And this is just an easier view to go through it. There's just a few graphics that I'm going to go through, the revenues and expenditures, and then cash. This is the revenues. We're at 6%. The property tax hasn't come in, and now there are a few of the highlighted revenue sources. The Sunny Hill Nursing Home is a reimbursement that we receive. It's intergovernmental. Illinois state income tax is at 0. Last year, the last few years, they were within, I think, 15%. The other ones are almost identical as the last year, the other fees and charges for services. And the expenditures, we are at 20%. If we go to the next slide, the focused 9 highest expenditure classes are shown, or I'm sorry, the departments, the 9 highest departments, and these are almost exactly as shown of last year's budget, which is identical, virtually identical to this year's budget. So it is right in line. I know you've had a long presentation, so I'm going through a brief summary. All of this is online, and you can look at this, and this is supplementing the finance. Can you go one back? The finance department's presentation monthly. At the bottom, the ending assets, or the ending cash is 36. For the general fund, last year we were at 33. So we've moved up. And if it stays in that course, as long as revenues come in as predicted, it will be in good shape as well. That is as quick as I'm going to make it. I know you guys have other business to attend to. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Any questions for Duffy?
No, that I just probably have to unrestrict that. But we'll give you a pass on that. Thank you. We can I could probably do it from my phone while you guys are talking.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Duffy was looking for your password.
I was like, yeah.
Any other questions? Yes, Ms. McPhillips.
I just have one. I know we talked in the past about all the corporate funds are on there, but special funds are.
Yes.
Do you have intentions at some point to put the special funds?
There is, yes. And I believe we have one extra column that's going to be added for fund, and those are going to be shown. We are working through that with an Access database that, but yeah, and it's going to be shown by, the only problem is that it gets larger and larger. So the current tool that we're using, which is free of charge through your, Jackie's Gmail account, that she's covering the charges. No, the tool that is shown on the website gets a little slow, and it kind of lags when you have that many. So we had to try to find a solution. We were going to have 2 separate pages and then 2 separate reports for those fund types. Yes.
Any other questions? Anyone else for Duffy?
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thanks,
Mr. Auditor.
Thanks, Mr. Costa. Thanks, Mr. Wolf.
From somebody that's won awards for being transparent, it is odd that he's asking for people's passwords. We got to watch that guy. Yeah. Transparency here and in your life.
Don't read anything into that.
All right, my first resolution is 12-100, and this is a resolution authorizing the creation of Fund 286 to increase the land use budget to reflect the receipt of new grant revenues and expenditures associated with the IKE Disaster Recovery Public Infrastructure Improvement Project, and I move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Custis, second by Mr. Smith. Any questions? Previous roll call by Mr. Gould, second by Ms. Drayle. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion is carried.
I would like to thank the State of Illinois for our next resolution. This is 12-101, a resolution authorizing the temporary loan from Corporate Fund 101 to the Health Department Fund 207, and I move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Custis, second by Ms. May. Any questions? Previous roll call by Mr. Gould, second by Mr. Travis. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion is carried.
Corey asked me if I'm joking, and yes, absolutely, I am joking. The state of Illinois is well behind in paying the health department, so out of corporate, we have to lend the health department $2.7 million, I believe, is the number? Up to $2.5 million in order to cover the lag in the payments from the state. So, of course, I am kidding. The next resolution is 12-102, a resolution transferring and increasing appropriations in various county budgets to fund year-end shortfalls, and I move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Custis, second by Ms. Rozak. Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Adamick, second by Mr. Grossi. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion is carried.
12-103 is a resolution appropriating IDOT grant funds in the sheriff's budget for commercial motor vehicle speed enforcement program, and I move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Custis, second by Ms. Goodson. Any questions? Previous roll call by Mr. Wilhelmy, second by Ms. Deutsch. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion is carried.
12-104 is a resolution appropriating grant funds in the sheriff's budget from the Illinois Emergency Management Agency for the Buffer Zone Protection Program, and I move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Custis, second by Ms. Rozak. Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Adamick, second by Mr. Howard. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion has carried.
Happy April. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Ed. Next, we move on to Public Works Transportation Committee. Mr. Singer.
Other left. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Walsh, members of the board. I understand that your tolerance for long PowerPoint presentations decreases depending on the number of them in one day. I get it that this is number 3, so we will make this we will make this brief. But before us is an update. Before us is what I think a pretty exciting update about the Build Will Transportation Program. Unfortunately, Mr. Bellata couldn't be here today. He had a business conflict which prevented him from being at our board meeting, so you're stuck with me. And certainly a pleasure to do this. You know, when I had the privilege of serving in Mr. Bellata's position right now as chairman of the Transportation Committee, it was incredibly exciting to pass our Build Will program. It's a comprehensive road improvement program throughout the county. It was very exciting not only to pass it, but equally exciting now to see it coming together, to see progress, and to see success. I truly believe it's one of the most consequential, tangible, and successful initiatives our county board has ever taken. It took quite a debate to get us to this point, to dedicate the money from our RTA tax funds in this direction, but I'm happy we made that right decision. You know, as we had talked about at such great length, road improvements make Will County safer, they support our small business community, they save our residents time, and one of the best ways to boost our local economy. So let's take a look at the first slide. This gives you a snapshot of where we started and where we are today. As you'll see, we started with a plan of 60 projects at a $300 million number. We currently have 72 projects on the books at $357 million. And we're working our way through accomplishing those one by one, and we'll get into that briefly here for just a minute. If we could switch to the next slide. This is an important one because even though the overlay program that we've been participating in did not widen roads, it sure made them a lot safer and allowed for much more updated means of transportation. We have overlaid 121 center line miles since the Build Will program started, or 240 lane miles, because when you consider a center line mile, you're looking at both sides of the road. That's a considerable amount of overlaying that we've done in just about 3 years. Let's switch to the next one. This gives you a snapshot of all the different locations that we have done overlays. As you see, the blue is in 2010, yellow 2011, green is 2012. You'll get an email of this if we can email it. I'm not sure. I think we can email the PDF of it because it's a really big file otherwise, but you can get an email and blow this up, and you can see it in detail as far as which roads have been done. We have a disc. That's right. Everyone has a disc on their desk. So take a look at this once you can get to a map that you can read. We'll switch to our 2012 slide. This shows our projects that have been completed through 2012, and as you'll notice the progression here, through 2011 we completed 16 projects. This year we'll complete 16 projects, so we will double that in just a matter of 1 year, which is an exciting update considering how long transportation projects like this can take to get off the ground. And of course, you know, as you can imagine, one of our primary problems, concerns in getting the program to this point has been in land acquisition, right-of-way acquisition. The faster that process goes, the faster we can improve our roadway system. You can switch, please. Here's our projects that are currently in progress. We have 28 in engineering and 36 that we're working on right-of-way. And as you can see, excuse me, as you can see, the number of projects continues to pick up in their pace, and always, as I just mentioned before, the thing that holds us up as far as moving forward is a right-of-way acquisition. In fact, I think there's one project where we have just over 130 parcels of land that have to be purchased along a roadway to complete the project. That is a colossal mess, as you can imagine, in trying to coordinate that. Let's switch to our funding slide. This is our transportation funding slide through 20 and 30. It shows how much it shows how much dollars we have projected through 2012, and then how much we're programming through 2012 to 2017. I think what's most notable on this slide, though, is that through 2017 we have a projected expenditure of just shy of $300 million on our roadway improvements through Build Will. However, it's only 1/5 of what we have projected it's going to take to get our highway system to the point where it needs to be by 2030. So even though Bill Will has been remarkably successful, a $300 million program is a considerable amount of money. When you put it in comparison to what our needs are going to be, even at our current rate of growth, it should be very eye-opening. It certainly demonstrates how our needs need to be compared to current expenditures. And again, this is why I consistently propose that we specifically budget to reach our road improvement goals, regardless of other needs that we may have or want or desire related to buildings or facilities. Okay, if we could switch to the next slide. This is a interactive slide that you'll be able to use with your disk. Each of the yellow boxes or designations shows a completed project. When you click on that, then it will give you all the details about that project, and you'll be able to understand it with far more information. So if we switch to the next slide, for example, I'm sorry. I'm one slide off. This slide is our 2012 program. Gives you an indication of how our monies are broken down in 1 year. As far as road construction, reconstruction, how much engineering and design in all 3 phases takes for us to accomplish a project. And of course, the right-of-way acquisition number is a considerable number, and in that too is all the consultant time it takes and expenditures it takes to acquire those right-of-ways. But this is just 2012. If we switch again, this is another interactive slide. This is the projects that we are doing in 2012. So again, if you click on each of those yellow boxes, you'll be able to see what we're planning and what will come forward in 2012. And what I mentioned before I got a little ahead of myself, if you switch to the next slide, this is an example. So for example, this is the Veterans Parkway or Weber Road slide. Mine are backwards on what I have here, but this will give you an example of what you see when you click on each of those yellow boxes. You understand what the size of the project is, its scope, and its total cost, and it gives you a far more focused map, so it gives you a very clear indication of what the project is. Because we have so many projects, if you want to start clicking through them a little bit, just kind of give a very brief feel of what this looks like. These are, just a pretty considerable list of projects and descriptions. But on your own time, I encourage you to look through this. I encourage you to become familiar with all these, especially in the districts you represent, so you can help us get the word out and advocate that we're doing what we said we would do with the monies that we have expended through Build Well. But it's an exciting program. It's incredibly exciting to see this kind of progress. I want to thank Bruce and his team for following through on this the way they have. This is, certainly a large undertaking, has a lot of complications, a lot of details, and they've done a good job in following through and make it happen. Any questions at this point? Mr. Howard?
Any questions? Mr. Howard?
This is funded, what you see here through the Bill Will program is funded through the RTA sales tax. So in my opinion, this is an example of us making good. This is an example of us doing something positive and effective with a bad deal that we were given. We have to give half of that additional sales tax away to Cook County. We have to give half of it away to the city of Chicago, but at least the half that we get to keep we're using well. Any other questions?
Ms. May?
Corey, I guess I look at this, and lots of this goes into my district, and I know I don't see a lot of buses in District 6, so I'm glad we're getting, this RTA that you say is a bad deal. I think it's a good deal that we get something out of it.
Well, we do get something out of it. My point in saying it's a bad deal is that, here again, Will County residents get to keep half of what they're being taxed. You could easily make the argument that if we're being taxed additional tax dollars, we should be able to keep, for that matter, all of it or a lot more. But at least we're keeping half. And with that half, we've done a good job in investing in infrastructure, investing in our roadway system, and that brings solid, tangible results to the people who are paying those taxes.
Any other questions?
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll now move. Oh, that's fine.
You going back to your...
Okay, we have a number of resolutions before us, beginning first with, excuse me, 12105, a resolution confirming award of contract to PT Farrow Construction Company. Excuse me, this is for the Jackson Road District. Make a motion to approve.
Moved by Mr. Singer, second by Mr. Gould. Any questions? Previous roll call by Mr. Travis, second by Ms. May. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary motion is carried.
Thank you. Moving on, 12106, resolution confirming award to Superior Road Striping for the raised reflective pavement markers, and I make a motion to approve.
Moved by Mr. Singer, second by Ms. Rozak. Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Adamick, second by Ms. Winfrey. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary motion is carried.
Thank you. 107, a resolution confirming award of contract to Iroquois Paving Corporation for Manhattan Money Road, excuse me, North Peatone Road, Exchange Street, County Board Districts 1 and 6, and I move.
Moved by Mr. Singer, second by Mr. Howard. Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Deutsch, second by Mr. Brooks. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary motion is carried.
108, a resolution confirming award of contract to Iroquois Paving Corporation for Will Center Road between Crete Money and Peatone Beecher, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Singer, second by Mr. Smith. Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Hart, second by Mr. Custer. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary motion is carried.
This is a big one and a needed one. This is a resolution confirming award of contract to Austin Tyler Construction for Manhattan Money Road, 88th Avenue intersection. I so move.
Moved by Mr. Singer, second by Ms. Trainier. Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Brooks, second by Mr. Travis. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary motion is carried.
110, a resolution confirming award to PT Farrow Construction Company for Weber Road on Weber Road from Gaskin to Airport Road, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Singer, second by Ms. Winfrey. Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Gould, second by Ms. Drayle. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary motion is carried.
111, a resolution for transfer of jurisdiction of Lorenzo Road to the city of Wilmington by the county under the highway code from I-55 West Frontage Road westerly to Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad at a distance of approximately 1.02 miles, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Singer, second by Ms. Rozak. Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. May, second by Ms. Winfrey. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary motion is carried.
112, a resolution for providing title commitment reports for use by the county to Wheatland Title Guarantee Company for Bell Road at the intersection of 143rd Street. I so move.
Moved by Mr. Singer, pardon me? Oh, okay. Moved by Mr. Singer, second by Mr. Custa. Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Konecki, second by Ms. Winfrey. All in favor signify by saying aye. Motion carried.
Okay, 113, a resolution authorizing approval of an IDOT County joint agreement for the improvements to Manhattan Arsenal Road from Baseline to Magnolia Lane, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Singer, second by Ms. Trainier. Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Adamick, second by Ms. Deutsch. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary motion is carried.
A resolution for engineering services by the county under the Illinois Highway Code for design with trans systems for roadway and appurtenant work on Manhattan Arsenal Road from Baseline to Magnolia, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Singer, second by Ms. Hart. Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Goodson, second by Mr. Smith. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion is carried.
115, a resolution authorizing approval of professional services agreement for right-of-way acquisition with Pollock Appraisal Company for several parcels along 135th Street between New Avenue and 171, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Singer, second by Mr. Gould. Previous roll call by Ms. Konecki, second by Mr. Adamick. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion is carried.
116, a resolution for construction engineering services by the county under the Highway Code with Stanley Consultants for 135th Street and Archer Avenue intersection, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Singer, second by Ms. Goodson. Previous roll call by Mr. Konecki, second by Ms. Winfrey. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion is carried.
117, a resolution for construction engineering services under the Illinois Highway Code with Omega and Associates for 143rd Street and the Will Cook Road intersection, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Singer, second by Ms. Trainier. Questions? Previous roll call, Ms. Konecki, second by Ms. Zagrossi. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion has carried. Mr. Howard, question did you have?
Under the Build Will program?
Pull your mic down, Bob.
Are these all under the Build Will program also, all these projects?
Yes, those that indicate RTA tax funds are within the Bill Will program.
Okay.
Okay,
So
Bob?
they can be either or then?
Oh.
The road bond or the RTA tax fund?
I don't believe there's any projects in front of us here other than, and Bruce, correct me if I'm wrong, other than the Manhattan Arsenal Road project and the P.T. Farrell project on Gaskin to Airport Road that involve motor fuel tax. Is that correct?
All the projects.
Bruce, why don't you come up?
Morning, everyone. Any of the projects that shows either A, B, or C bonds or RTA are part of Build Will. We do have other resolutions before you this morning that may have some maintenance work. There's some county highway tax money, some motor fuel tax money. Those are not the Build Will. When you see RTA and bond money, that is exclusive Build Will money. Those are Build Will projects.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Bruce at this time? Thank you, Bruce. Okay, move on, Mr. Singer.
All right, two more. 118, a resolution authorizing an agreement between the County of Will and Northern Illinois Gas Company for reimbursement for relocating facilities along Weber Road at the intersection of Renwick. And I so move.
Moved by Mr. Singer, second by Mr. Smith. Any questions? Previous roll call by Ms. Hart, second by Ms. McPhillips. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion is carried.
And lastly, 119, a resolution for supplemental agreement for construction engineering services with Tang and Associates for Weber Road over the EJ&E Railroad, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Singer, second by Ms. Rozak. Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Travis, second by Pastor Brooks. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion is carried.
That's all I have.
Thank you very much, Corey. Moving on, Judicial Committee, Ms. Trail, Chairperson.
Good morning, everyone. I have two resolutions for consideration. First, Resolution 12-120. This is a resolution setting the fee for issuance of attorney identification cards for courthouse security bypass, and I so move.
Moved by Ms. Trail, second by Ms. McPhillips. Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Trenier, second by Mr. Adamick. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion is carried.
Second resolution, 12-121. This is a resolution authorizing the Will County Executive to accept credit cards for the payment of fees and fines related to the Administrative Adjudication Program, and I so move.
Moved by Ms. Trail, second by Ms. Hart. Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. May, second by Mr. Wilhelmy. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion is carried.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ann. Moving on, Public Health and Safety Committee. Don, Mr. Gould, Chairman.
Good morning again, everyone.
Good morning, Don.
My first resolution is 12-122, a resolution appropriating grant funds in the Health Department budget from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention Office on Smoking and Health, and I move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Gould, second by Mr. Brooks. Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Howard, second by Ms. May. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried.
I have Resolution 12-123, a resolution appropriating CenterPoint Properties website grant in the Health Department budget. You recall we received the check last month. This is the appropriation. I move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Gould, second by Ms. Rozak. Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Adamick, second by Mr. Smith. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried.
That concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Don. Legislative and Policy Committee, Ms. Goodson, Chairperson.
Good morning, everyone. Our legislators in Springfield are dedicating a great deal of time right now to the next state budget, and several suggestions have been proposed on how to address our budget deficit. Recently, we've all heard that the governor has decided to close 14 of our state facilities, 2 of them which have a direct impact on Will County. I have two resolutions this morning opposing those closures. And so what I'd like to do is, for the first one, I'd like to get it on the floor, and then I would like to defer to Walt Adamick to talk about the ramifications of the closing the Illinois Youth Center. So I'll make a motion to support 12-124, a resolution opposing the closure of the Illinois Youth Center in Joliet.
Moved by Ms. Goodson, second by Mr. Mustis.
And then, Walt, if you would like to make some comments.
Mr. Adamick.
Goodson and fellow county board members, I brought this through to executive. As we all know, especially the citizens in Joliet, there's signs all over the place throughout the city and probably in the county opposing the closure of the Illinois Youth Center. The Illinois Youth Center is important for a variety of different reasons. Obviously, there are jobs there, but it's also about public safety. And I know the state is in a fiscal a mess, if you will, and some cuts will have to be made. But it doesn't seem to me to be very much sense, make a lot of sense if you close something that's only the only one maximum security facility for the Illinois youth. The other facilities that they do have, while some may be a little under attended, if you will, this is the only one that is maximum security. And from a public safety standpoint, from a jobs perspective, this is important to our area. The increased cost for transportation and overtime and so forth that would have to be spent is probably into the untold dollars amount. So I would ask that we support keeping this facility open. Larry, you were there as well. We're going to fight this thing. We don't want this to close. Our state's attorney was there. And it has bipartisan support from our local senators and state reps, as well as other senators and state reps throughout the state of Illinois. I believe we should keep this facility open. It is updated, and it's a facility that we need. I would ask my fellow board members to support.
Thank you. Well, any questions for either Mr. Adamick or Ms. Goodson? Ms. Konecki?
Certainly, we don't want to lose local jobs. And obviously, there is a severe cost to moving the current, I guess, residents of the facility hours away to Kewanee or Harrisburg. What is the cost differential? I mean, how much is the state saving doing something like this when you factor all of that in? What's saved by closing it down? And then the addition, do we have any idea of the additional cost when they now have to transport hours like this?
Mr. Glasgow?
When we were testifying before the Oversight Commission, one of the members of the commission was shocked to hear that the budget for the IYC is only $19 million. Out of the $1 billion in deficits that the state's facing, it's a joke. I know firsthand, 1984, I approved a murder charge on Mr. Washington, who was murdered out there. There's a memorial to him in the courtyard there. The worst of the worst go to IYC. They cannot be placed anywhere else. They're lying to you when they say they can handle them elsewhere. They're in Joliet because no one else could handle them. They're so dangerous. So if you put them out with people who can't handle them, look at the carnage that could occur, and you can't even put a dollar amount on that. But the budget is only $19 million, and it provides a centralized location. And right now there's a federal order on Cook County, and so there's a lot of Cook County prisoners there, so it's a short transport. It also allows their parents to come visit, and somebody might chuckle there because the parents weren't able to handle them. But the counselors will tell you that parental contact makes a difference. It helps to keep them diffused. If you put them 350 miles south of here and then put them on a bus with a couple, poor guards trying to guard them all the way up, and the potential for escape, it would be horrific. The fallout dollars will dwarf the $19 million, Kathleen. Truly will. Yeah. And I think the commission knows that. The commission is going to recommend against closure.
Yeah, I noticed the resolution says that they'll cost the state overtime and other related travel and housing costs with no significant budget savings. I mean, that's the zinger. I would assume that under the state's plan that the more highly I guess we have very highly trained, what are they calling them, the people who run the facility here, and it takes people that highly trained to manage such a population, that the new facilities down in Harrisburg or Quaney would have people equally trained, and you're indicating apparently not.
They don't, nor are the facilities constructed in the way necessary to contain them. So it's Joliet is set up for this. It has always been set up for this, and it would be just absolutely idiotic to close it. It almost looks, it's the same thing with the Tinley Park Mental Health Center. We can't close that. And the commission recommended in 2009 we not close it unless there was a viable alternative. And DHS came in and told them they had a request for information, guys, not proposal, not bit. The request for information is all they've done. We send. The average has been about 2,000 going to Tinley Park. They spend about 12 days. They get stabilized. They get on their medication, and then they come out, and they're not a danger to themselves or the public. But when they go in, they are. We send 500 a year, but I heard the latest quote by DHS, that number could jump to 2,700 for this year, and we send 25% of those people there. The jeopardy that we replace our citizens in by leaving them on the street, or the cost of trying to hold them in jail when mental care is what they need and not incarceration. It's foolish, it's stupid, and I'm pretty sure the Commission's going to strongly advise against closing that also. I don't know why he chose these two projects. It's like, you just blindly pick them off a list. They were the wrong choices.
The people who will lose the jobs, and the resolution says that the staff, they're highly educated, specially trained to handle these dangerous and specialized subpopulation of youth. So those people would not follow the youth down to the new facilities. They'd simply be...
Right, only a small portion of these jobs would be saved, which would be another travesty to our local community,
Well,
because...
It would be, but I mean, at least the minimum should be that these people who, they're trained, they're specially trained, that they would go with the youth to the new facility. Their jobs would track down to Harrisburg or Kewanee at least, but they're not even planning, the state's not even planning to do that?
No.
I think, well, that certainly is a very bad idea.
And also, I mean, just these local people are just being treated like chattel. These are human beings with families that live in our community, own houses that could be foreclosed on if they lose their job. And then what happens if they go on public aid? Who pays that? We do. You're not saving a dime. This is idiotic and stupid.
Mr. Mustis?
I'd like just to make maybe a more expanded comment. We here at the county or the county board, very often we will be critical of the state in the sense that to get their economic house in order. And then when the state wants to provide cuts, it appears like we're saying, well, we don't want you to cut if it's in our neighborhood. And that's really not the case in either one of these situations. In both cases, one case, you're not saving a dime. You still have to provide the service. It's not going away. The operational costs are still there. And this is probably the most efficient way of doing it, what they currently have. Take the Tinley Park mental health facility. This is just an attempt to shift the cost to local government and take the cost away from the state when it's really the state responsibility. So no one should, and this is probably more for the general public than it is for folks in this room, is that understand we still feel strongly about the state getting their fiscal house in order. It's not that we don't support cuts where they need to be cut, but it has to be true savings. In either case here, one is not saving money, and one is just shifting responsibility more to locals, specifically the county. So I think people should have a clear understanding where I think we stand on some of these issues.
Thank you. Any other questions? Ms. May?
Well, I just wanted to add, Mr. Mustis, I can remember that in the 1980s, I think maybe what Jim was talking about, I can remember working and we had a situation where the new word came up, homeless, and we never saw homeless people before, and all of a sudden, they start closing things down and money was starting to be taken away. And I remember like the founding fathers of Joliet and such called all the agencies together, all of our agencies together, and said, what can you do? We got people sleeping on the streets. We got people hanging around downtown. And the issue was that they weren't necessarily unemployed. They had some mental issues, and they could not be employed. And they didn't know what to do with them. And then all the burden was, they wanted the agencies to come up with plans and what can you do. And the point was that we weren't, most of the agencies, we weren't responsible for providing medicine or counseling or such. So with the closing of these centers, I just see it getting worse. I just see that, once again, they're going to call agencies together locally and say, what can you do? The agencies are currently strapped. There's no extra funds. We're being cut, they're all being cut. So you're going to have people that, I don't know what Springfield really understands. I don't know if they think people just sit on the street and die and go away. They don't. There's problems that all will be encountered with. People, you can't walk down the street and not be affected by seeing people suffering. So, I mean, I know I don't know what we can do except that just say what a shame it is that our legislators can't get their acts together on many issues and do something about this.
Thank you. Any other comments? Motion to
Support.
12-124, motion to approve Resolution 12-124. Previous roll call by Ms. Winfrey, second by Mr. Brooks. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion is carried. Ms.
Thank
Goodson.
you. The next resolution, 12-125, is a resolution also, as we briefly discussed, to oppose the closing of the Tinley Park Mental Health Facility. And we have been talking about this for several years. Closing it has been defeated once before by the Commission on Government Forecasting and Accountability. This is the same organization that is conducting the hearings across the state about all 14 of these facilities. And so, again, I would like to get this on the floor and then defer to Don Gould, Chairman of the Health Committee.
Moved by Ms. Goodson, second by Ms. Rozak. Mr. Gould.
Well, a lot's been said. I don't want to reiterate what's already been stated, but just some brief history. In 2005, it was proposed to close Tinley Park. The county board took a stand. We passed a resolution at that time, and were able to stop the closure of Tinley Park. I think most of you are aware that it's right on the county line, Cook and Will on 183rd Street when you drive into Tinley Park. I believe the facility's been there since 1959. The state's attorney pointed out about a quarter of the patients there are from Will County. If that facility were to close, chances are most people would go to Elgin, or it would fall back upon our local hospitals or some other plan which the state has not yet developed. I will point out, though, that our health department, Dr. Troiani, our director, John Cicero, have been in contact with the mental health community to try to prepare the county in the event that Tinley Park does close. We all hope that it doesn't, but here again, we're back in the same spot we were several years ago. So I won't read the resolution. It's there on your desk to read it. But I ask that you all support the resolution.
Any questions, Ms. Konecki?
Just a comment, and we did discuss this in our caucus. I think it's imperative that the state take responsibility to the extent of having or helping devise a transition plan. In other words, instead of just what does happen to these people, perhaps they are assuming that if we step in and at the local level, obviously they're going to increase the burden here in our Will County, different of our various of our facilities here. And if indeed we can serve this population more cost efficiently, that's something we need to take a look at. But I think we are going to need some help from the state, some financial support. I mean, if they can save money, that's fine, and these people can still get served locally in an adequate manner, that's fine, but there's going to be an increased cost to us. And I think that along with saving money, the state ought to funnel some of that savings to us at the local governmental level so that we can do what they apparently are expecting us to do. In other words, this ought to be a shared project, and I think we need to do whatever we need to do, whether it's another resolution, to make it very clear that state doesn't just walk away, that we are now apparently going to be partners in serving this population. We're going to be picking up a lot of it locally, but I think the state certainly has a responsibility, instead of, taking its cost down to zero, to, helping provide some support to us as we pick up this added burden and these people continue to receive the services they so desperately need.
Mr. Cicero, would you like to address anything at all that you can enlighten us on in regards to yours and Dr. Triani's possible discussions?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
All of the comments have been pretty much on target with respect, and I'm addressing the Tinley Park Mental Health Center. The idea of closure has been on the books since 04, 05, and it's been turned back several times. But as the local community mental health provider in Will County at the health department, we have been putting plans together that go back to 04 on what to do should Tinley close. What the state is looking at right now is there's an RFI that's kind of out, looking for requests for information from local providers on what would it take to put some program together for the Southland area, and we're concerned about Will County, to replace Tinley Park should it close. What we have in the Will County area is called the LAN, the LAN, the Local Area Network, which is a planning organization of mental health, behavioral health, addiction providers, hospitals, etc. in our area. We've been working with that group to put some type of plan together to respond to this RFI. The plan from the state is to reinvest some of the savings back into the community. The plans that we're putting together are not going to duplicate what you have in Tinley Park. We can't put together a hospital here with the few dollars that are going to be made available that are going to replace the services out at Tinley Park Mental Health Center. It's not going to be the same. We're looking at, from our program at the health department, we simply do inpatient care. So we're looking at requesting additional dollars for psychiatric services, for medication management. Should these people be out in the community and make their way to our facility, what would it take for us to be able to beef up? That's not going to handle the inpatient care requirement of a hospital closing. The discussion years ago was that Tinley Park sits on something like close to 300 acres. The majority of that campus is unused. There's a very small part that's used for the hospitalization of these mentally ill individuals. The talk was maybe a smaller replacement facility in the Southland to act as an inpatient psychiatric facility. Go ahead and close Tinley, sell the property, get some profit for the state. But you need a replacement model in the community. That's what's not there. We're stepping up looking at what we can do to handle some of the outpatient services and whatnot, but it's not going to duplicate the entire facility as it exists today. We're responding to the RFI. We're actually going to be submitting, when I say we, I'm talking about this local area network consisting of hospitals, health department, Trinity Services, Cornerstone, Stepping Stones. All of those entities are putting their heads together to submit the RFI to say, here are some of the things we would need to be able to treat some of these folks. It's not an exact replacement model that's going to cover everything should it close.
Any questions? Any questions, Mr. Mistis?
John, I don't know if you can answer this, but you say this, even if we provide additional services, it is not a replacement. So let me ask, do you have any idea how many mental health inpatient beds there are in the area? I mean, my impression is there's very few.
I don't have an absolute number, but you're right, it's very small. One of the things that the state is proposing to get hospitals to consider is a program called CHIPS, Community Hospital Inpatient Psychiatric Services, where hospitals would be paid some per diem rate to help with some of these patients. Well, obviously the rate does not cover the costs that the hospitals will be burdened with in treating these individuals. So those discussions are ongoing, but to my knowledge, there's been no formal commitment from our hospitals to jump on board, basically taking on a program that would be, putting them at a loss based on the reimbursement rates.
But most hospitals are not set up for mental health.
Not equipped to deal with these types of chronic, mentally ill, acute care individuals, and somebody, I think it might have been Mr. Glasgow, said that the Illinois Youth Center, these are the highest of the high as far as need goes. That's what you're dealing with here. Some of the highest needs that are available to treat.
The only hospital that I'm aware of, and I don't know if they still continue to have mental health wing in their hospital, is St. Joe's, and I'm not even so sure that they have it. They had it for years, but I don't know if they still do it today.
I believe they still do provide some services, but not at a level to be able to absorb what might happen with the closure of Tinley Park.
Are you aware of any other hospital that even remotely provides for mental health? Besides St. Joe's? I'm not aware of any, that's why I'm asking.
Well, the other mental health hospitals in the state system are all in the Chicago area.
Okay.
Madden, Reed Mental Health Center.
I'm talking about Will County.
And Will County, I'm not aware of any significant beds that would be available to treat this population.
Yeah, I look at, they're knocking down Oak Forest Hospital pretty much, another very large campus, but they're removing all the buildings. You would think that maybe we could have gotten together maybe with some of these other systems. And
it's
maybe
hard.
done some intergovernmental with Cook County, maybe to leave. I mean, there could have been, I think, a little bit more creative thinking here.
And it's hard to roll these plans out in such short order. And we're talking about a June 30th closure date. The planning that I'm talking about for not even counting the hospitalization, just some of the inpatient care, takes a lot of planning and coordination amongst all these entities. And to think that you can get all this together, submit an RFI, and be all ready to go and ramp up in 45 days, not likely.
I was going to say many of these folks, unfortunately, wind up in our jail over time because they're not being treated appropriately, not just here, the county jails throughout the area. And I'm always reminded of in California when they cut mental health. The largest mental health facility in the country is L.A. County Sheriff's mental health facility.
And I would imagine that the Cook County prison system is probably number 2.
Yeah, so
if you take a look at it.
So, I mean, here again, the point is they wind up in a jail system where they're not getting the appropriate training. It winds up being much more costly in the long run. That's all.
Ms. Trail,
I have a question for clarification.
would you pull your mic over in so?
Sure. I just have a question for clarification purposes. With Tinley Park, you have long-term and short-term programming, with the long-term being continued residential care. Is that correct, or? I
don't want to speak as our expert, that would be our behavioral health director, but Tinley Park, there are a lot of individuals that are admitted to Tinley Park that may have a somewhat short stay, could be a couple of weeks or so, getting some diagnosis, getting some medication management, getting treated, and they may be released or deflected back out to be treated at facilities such as ours, community outpatient mental health centers. You come in, you see our psychiatrist, you see our therapist, we manage your medications, and you attempt to integrate back into society. There are others at Tinley that are probably there for a much longer duration. Perhaps State's Attorney is aware of. Some of those folks may be there for years.
The average stay of the total population, and last year it was 1,900, and like I said, they look like they're going to 2,600, and I don't know what's causing that spike. The average stay is only 12 days, but those are 12 critical days where they're going from up here, out of control, to right here, where they can go back onto the street or to John's facility. You leave them out on the street when they're all wound up and they're bipolar and they're not taking their medication. They do things they wouldn't normally do. They can harm people. They can harm themselves. When we do involuntary commitments, we have to have a bed to place them in. And Renee Kozel asked, well, you got this RFI out there, and you're dealing with private companies, right? Yeah. Did you tell them that the state doesn't pay? You're lucky if you get paid in 6 months, and are they willing to accept that kind of a payment plan? Most good businesses tell you take a walk. We can't wait 6 months, and then maybe after 6 months they'll say, tricked you. You know, I mean, that's how it's going right now with state payments. And I mean, you guys, when you do your land, you have to factor that in. Can you wait 6 months, or can you handle it if they don't even pay you? But the biggest asset that you mentioned is the land. And this was the most comical thing. 0405 is when they started looking at this facility. One of the board members called the guy up from the land department and said, how much is this land worth? Oh, we don't know. Well, give me a ballpark. I can't. And he goes, 7 years you've been looking at this and you can't even give me a ballpark or what kind of an asset we're fighting over here? I mean, seriously, that was the level of incompetence that was going on at that hearing. And the health department getting up there and saying they have an RFI, they had not a single commitment, yet they want to close the place. And like John said, it's going to take him months and months to get all of his details and submit this properly. Then they're going to need months and months to review it. And then there's got to be contracts cut.
Well, so, I can tell you that we had our monthly Board of Health business meeting yesterday afternoon. And we discussed Tinley Park, as we do pretty much every month, as an update, and that there's an RFI that's out. And then another agenda item is them approving coming to you all today to borrow $2.5 million because the state is so far in arrears on payments. And I can tell you, they're not ready to sign any agreements with any state organization right now for expansion of services. You sign on the dotted line, and we wait 9 months or a year to get paid. So the fact that we're just talking about proposals, these are generic discussions. I don't know that my board is ready to sign on to take any more responsibilities on, knowing that we're not getting paid and we're having to come to you to get some borrowing for cash flow purposes.
Ms. Hart?
And we kind of brushed on this on health and safety, and I'm sorry, I can't remember what your whole response, because I did a little background on this with Linden Oaks. I mean, I know that's DuPage, it's Naperville, so I'm covered, but the whole Will County, there's also, when you were saying about hospitals, and Linden Oaks has the inpatient, and there's also Edwards that's in Plainfield, which is Will County. I was just kind of throwing, I didn't understand why they weren't ever a player.
I don't believe we have any admissions to any of those facilities. All of our youth that are in our youth mental health program, most of the majority of those admissions are in the Chicagoland area at 2 or 3 hospitals that specialize in that, but not our local community hospitals.
Ms. Konecki?
Again, I think all of us understand that the state's got major financial problems, and it needs to sit down and find ways to close the gap, and we all benefit if it as the state accomplishes that. And it's nice that it's going to save money in doing this. What I think we need to get on record, if we don't already have it on record, is as realistic and detailed an estimate as possible of the costs that are going to shift to us here in Will County if this facility is closed. And then I think we need to put as much pressure as we can on the state to be specific in committing to what percentage or dollar amount of its savings it intends to reinvest in our local community. It's lovely that it's made a commitment apparently to that concept. I'd like it to pin them down on the dollar amounts. I have a feeling the harder we push on this, it may become clear that there really isn't a savings to the tax-paying public at large from this move. One unit of government loves to, save money and advertise how much it saved, but it may do something that, by and large, for the tax-paying public. Doesn't save them a darn penny, just shifts it around like we're saying.
There is an actual reinvestment number that has been out there, that's been put out there by the state as part of this IFR process, and what's been made aware to us is $9.8 million, which is approximately 1/2 of the estimated savings regarding the closure. Those are the numbers that my Director of Behavioral Health has been made aware of. So $9.8 million reinvested in some fashion as a part of these proposals that they're seeking submission on.
Mr. Mustis? To get away from the dollars, I'd like to make two comments. One about the actual facility in Tinley Park. But the first comment I'd like to make is that there should not be an assumption, and John, you hit on this already, but there should not be an assumption we can deliver the service. I mean, this idea of, well, Will County or some other entity is going to pick up the service just is not the case. We do not have the capacity to pick them all up or provide those services. So I think it should be understood, as Mr. Cicero already mentioned, we can't do the inpatient, but we can't do all the outpatient either. We will not pick up those service needs. John, I mean, would you agree with that?
I agree.
I mean, I don't know who's going to pick it up, but in my view, it'll be people who are just not given those services that are really needed to get them into a healthy situation. So
I think everybody that's part of this local area network that I described, from Trinity Services to Cornerstone to our health department, Stepping Stones, Grundy County Health Department, I don't think anybody is in favor of the closure. All we're doing as a planning organization is saying, you know, that decision is really outside our control. And if it's going to happen, what's the best that we can do to help service as many as we can in our service area, and what are the costs? And we're rolling all that up in a proposal and sending that off for consideration.
And the reality is you may be picking up very little of it. Yeah, I want to make that point. People will just not be served.
That's
I mean, so there should not be an assumption it's automatically picked up.
No.
That's my point. The other comment I'd like to make is, this borders my district. You know, I live over that way. So I drive by there many times for many years. It's a pretty decent sized campus, 300 acres. It runs along Harlem Avenue from basically 183rd to 171st Street, and from Harlem over to 80th Avenue from east to west. And much of it is already closed down. It is not, that campus is not being utilized as it once was many years ago. The services they provide has shrunk over the years. And John, you mentioned this, that, you know, why isn't the state, or why don't we suggest the state just reduce the footprint over there? They could probably carve out, you know, a 25-acre site and go, and if they wanted to sell the other 275 acres, go ahead. You know, and I've talked even, and I think, by the way, I think this is one of the reasons that facility continually comes on the radar. It's a valuable piece of property that the state would like to see, you know, if they could get money to help reduce their financial situation. It's not worth what it used to be. It's, even though you would think it's great for commercial use, they can't compete with the Will County side because of their tax structure. So it's probably going to be more residential, or it'll be heavily TIFed or subsidized in some fashion. I've been told that by Tinley Park planners, by the way, our folks from Tinley Park, planners and non-planners, that it has probably limited commercial value. I think it would be a great campus for a college, actually, but that doesn't bring any money in either, does it? But my point is, I guess, is that is there ever discussion about just reducing the footprint of the facility? And they can take, by the way, they can take the less valuable side. They can get down there on 80th Avenue on, say, 183rd Street, which wouldn't have the same type of value as the Harlem frontage would have, for example.
Yeah, I really couldn't say if those discussions are going on at the state level. They're certainly not shared with us. But
I mean, should we suggest at least a look? I mean, has anybody ever mentioned this? Reduce the footprint.
given the fact that these discussions have been going on since '04, I would find
Never
it
heard that, huh?
highly unlikely that didn't come up
Okay.
at some point, but I don't know. I don't. If this board would like, I can provide a much more detailed overview of this whole issue at your next meeting next month.
I'd like that.
If you want another PowerPoint, I'll invite my behavioral health director, and we can really go through some more facts and figures for
I
you.
got no problem. Make these county board members earn their keep. Make them sit here.
Any other discussion? Oh, Jim?
There's one cost that could be so volatile, we wouldn't even want to think about it. We can't predict what would happen if they close it, and hundreds of these people that should be in treatment are out on the streets. These aren't normal homeless people, Sharon. They're mentally ill. And sometimes we can have a commitment hearing where we have a judge find they're a danger to themselves, they're a danger to others, but if we don't have somewhere to put them, they haven't committed a crime. It's a civil commitment. If we have nowhere to put them, they could wind up out on the street, and innocent people could wind up being injured by them, or they could be injuring themselves. That's a human toll that it's hard to put a cost on, but certainly it could be enormous based on the numbers.
Mr. Singer?
Mr. Glasgow, question for you. Because this, going back to what you just said, if they were to close it and those mentally ill persons were then not cared for and on the streets and not in a position where they could be cared for and then in turn hurt themselves, hurt others, and certainly given the state's responsibility to participate in these regards, is there a legal mechanism to? I mean, is there a legal route to this? Is there a way to pursue a legal course to ensure the state of Illinois fulfills its obligation to care for the mentally ill? I mean, or in this case, those who could be certainly a danger to themselves or the community. I mean, you could take that to a lot of other extents. What if the state of Illinois chose not to, for example, have a police force? What if they chose that we can't afford this or that or what have you? I mean, is there a route there?
We can look at it, Corey. I don't think so, but I'm certainly leaves no stone unturned. But they do this as long as the budget allows, so to speak. It's just right now, as John will tell you at your next meeting, he'll show you all the planning that needs to be done on this, and they're trying to rush this. And that's what I tried to tell them is your own commission recommended in 2009 not to do this till you have a solid alternative. And like Jim said, build a small facility on 25 acres. That would work. But it amazes me how they never think about the fallout costs. Same with IYC. If a couple people get murdered because they put those people in the wrong place, what's the cost of that? I mean, you can't put a price on that. And so these things have to be considered. But the number of people we're talking about, and there were some passionate pleas by both the state's attorney's office and Tom Dart's office not to close Tinley Park because they're gonna have hell to pay up there. I mean, the whole Southland is going to be a mess because the hospitals, as Jim pointed out, they've all downsized their mental health departments. One of the reasons is because Tinley Park was there. They didn't need to. They turned their profit to other beds, so they don't exist. And you think they're going to retool them on the prospect that in 9 months they might get paid? It's not going to happen. So we absolutely can't close this.
Well, it's a dang shame of it all when awful management in Springfield winds up hurting the weakest of our community, and for that matter, endangers everybody else.
Ms. Konecki.
Just quickly, I mean, I'm all for cost savings, streamlining, all that kind of thing. So if this is the right move, I can see us being cooperative with it. But it's not that we can't have the beds, we don't have them. And there's certainly not the money in that kind of money in our budget to build a smaller facility. If it's an advantage to the taxpayers of this state to to make that land available for more productive use, fine. And if it makes more economic sense to move rebuild an adequate facility here in our county, that's fine. The question then the people would still be served. The question is one of money. And perhaps the state is willing, as a general year-by-year model, to reinvest 50% here, and maybe that'll even be adequate. But the initial cost, the downstroke, has to be a lot more. Maybe for the first year or two, 100% of that savings needs to come to our community so that we can build the facility we need to step in and take care of those patients which do require the in-house. So I think we might be a better positioning for us to work cooperatively on this issue rather than trying to stop it entirely. I mean, we don't want to be against saving money, but on the other hand, we need to get the support, financial support from the state we need to step in and take care of these people. We could serve them in-house with sufficient funding to build the facility, a facility out here in our county. And if that makes more financial sense than continuing to operate Tinley Park, it's hard to argue against it.
There are some challenges by the mental health community to get a larger portion of the savings reinvested in this type of a plan, as opposed to about 50%, which was the original number that was out there. So,
Ms. Winfrey.
Thank you, Mr. Executive. I want to thank everyone for their comments, and I suggest we make our position known by approving this resolution. So I call the question.
Thank you. And last speaker, Ms. Trenier.
That was my motion.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. Plenty of discussion. Previous roll call by Mr. Wilhelmy, second by Mr. Travis. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion is carried.
Thank you. Currently, a great deal of the work being done in Springfield is focused on the budget. Yesterday, a unanimous House joint resolution was passed. This requires a 3/5 majority for any passage of a pension sweetener for any of the state pensions, so that's a positive thing. And then on the flip side, we're looking at, again, back to Medicaid, potential cuts in Medicaid, just smaller reimbursement amounts. And so that work will continue, but that's actually the good news, because this time last year they weren't even talking about the budget, so they're ahead of schedule. Also, I'd like to just mention that we've been talking about the transportation bill in Washington. On almost the final day, a unanimous bill did pass, but it was only for a 90-day extension. So the last time that we've actually had an extension for the surface transportation bill was 2009. This is the 9th extension, but it's a 90-day period of time, and so that will allow for further deliberation so that hopefully we can come up with a long-term solution. There will be a small contingency from the county board traveling to Washington next week. Diane Seiler, Chairman Mustis, myself, and Nick Palmer will be meeting with several agencies just to help to promote our legislative agenda and continuing to fund some of our many programs that have been very beneficial and successful in the county. Finally, that's all I have. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Leanne. Capital Improvements Committee, Ann Drayle. Ms. Drayle.
Chuck is not here. I will be presenting the resolution 12-126. This is a resolution authorizing the county executive to execute a lease renewal for emergency management response vehicle storage, and I so move.
Any moved by Ms. Drayle, second by Mr. Smith. Any discussion? Previous roll call by Mr. Gould, second by Ms. Rozak. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion has carried.
That's all I have.
Thank you very much, Ms. Drayle. On to the Executive Committee, Mr. Mustis. Morning, Jim. Oops, sorry.
Is 1296, the resolution awarding bid to accept credit card, debit cards, and ARC payments for the real estate taxes to the Treasurer's Office. I will move for approval. I went out of turn here, I think, didn't I?
This was
Okay.
this was tabled last month, Jim, so we need to bring it.
I'm sorry, yes, it was. I'll make a motion to remove from table 1296.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Adamick. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried. Now, proceed.
Now it's off the table. I'll make a motion to approve.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Ms. Goodson. Any discussion? Previous roll by Ms. Winfrey, second by Mr. Adamick. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion has carried.
Next, 127, replacement hires for Sunny Hill. I'll move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Ms. Trenier. Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Adamick, second by Mr. Wilhelmy. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
Resolution 128, replacement hires for the Highway Department. I'll move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Brooks. Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Adamick, second by Mr. Smith. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
129, a resolution declaring vehicle surplus and authorizing sale. I'll move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Weigel. Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Hart, second by Ms. McPhillips. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried.
130, resolution declaring various equipment surplus and authorizing recycle and disposal. And I'll move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Trenier. Any questions? Previous roll call by Mr. Grossi, second by Ms. Deutsch. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried.
131, a resolution awarding bid for local telephone access, private line, and long-distance services, and I will move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Travis. Any questions? Previous roll call by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Costa. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried.
132, resolution authorizing intergovernmental agreement with the Village of Gottlieb Park District for a permanent residential electronics and/or traditional recycling drop-off. I will move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Ms. Rozak. Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Gould, second by Mr. Brooks. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
133, a resolution, intergovernmental agreement with the City of Naperville for household hazardous waste collection facility, and I will move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Ms. Hart. Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Drayle, second by Ms. McPhillips. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
134, a resolution awarding bid for the preparation of the upgrade Will County analysis of impediments to fair housing choice. I will move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Adamick. Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Trenier, second by Mr. Smith. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
135, a resolution authorizing the county executive to negotiate a professional service agreement with Curry and Associates for state lobbying services, and I will move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Adamick. Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Wilhelmy, second by Mr. Brooks. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried. Yep. I'll get that for Leanne. Okay, thank you, Leanne.
136, a resolution approving the designation of segments of historical Route 66 at a national scenic byway. I will move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Wilhelmy. Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Rozak, second by Mr. Smith. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, Leanne, you want to be a yes on this?
Yes, I do. Thank
Thank you very much. Motion is carried.
Next, I have the appointments of the county executive. I will move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Musta, second by Mr. Adamick. Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Zagrosi, second by Ms. Winfrey. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
And that concludes my report, Mr. Executive.
Thank you very much, Jim. Announcements by the County Board Chairman, Mr. Mustis.
Well, first, I'd like to welcome Mr. Travis back. I said, you look pretty good, Henry. I think he can still go around, so you guys ought to watch out, you know. And I do think it's fitting that Mr. Travis joins us today, and we address a community that he has been an advocate for many, many years. It is in that area, and so I think it was a fitting day to return, Mr. Travis. I think it was an interesting meeting today. It probably went a little bit longer than some of you expected. Good discussion. Of course, I think it always goes a little longer than some of you are expecting. But I also believe the discussion showed how caring and concerned this board is on a very nonpartisan, serve the community way. So, having said that, our White Sox are off to an okay start, better than I expected, and the Cubs. There's a lot of season left, guys. Don't give up. So that concludes my report, Mr. Executive. You have a great day. And
Thank you very much. Report from Ms. Goodson, Minority Whip.
Thank you, Mr. Executive. If anybody caught even one issue of the Herald News last week, you couldn't help but to notice the campaign that is bringing attention to an epidemic problem in Will County and across the country, and that is the addiction to heroin. We're on track right now for record deaths this year, and even though the numbers don't speak for themselves, because we're only looking at 10 that have died from overdoses this year and a projection of 45 before the year's out, it doesn't take away the importance of the issue. Another fellow county board member, Deb Rozak, and I both ended up at the forum that was held on Friday. It was sponsored by our county executive, our state's attorney, Jim Glasgow, and the HEROES organization and the HELPS organization. HEROES founded by a father who lost the battle with his son against the addiction. And I want to get on the bandwagon and just say we need to raise awareness. My 24-year-old daughter was shocked because every time I turn around, I'm talking about this, and she's like, "You're crazy. What are you talking about? There's a problem with heroin. That's ridiculous." And she's starting to understand we have a problem, and we need to bring attention to it, because if we cover it up, it'll continue and it'll grow, and if we bring it out into the light, people will understand. Education is important, but also reclassifying drug addicts and addiction needs to be unstigmatized, if that's even such a word. It's being addressed in pockets like our drug court and groups like HELPS and HEROES, but I think that it's actually going to change so many things. The way that we do things in the United States, the way that our courts view addicts. And I didn't actually hear this at the forum, but I have heard State's Attorney Glasgow say this. This is a war coming from Afghanistan, from the Taliban, being fought on our ground. This heroin is coming over in the most pure forms that have ever been known. And they're getting our children, and they're getting our even adults, they're getting our veterans. There's no socioeconomic boundaries here, whether they're affluent families or poor families and anywhere in between. This is an affordable drug that is very enticing, that once you get hooked, it's almost impossible to get unhooked. And I just want to say I hope that we continue to do more, and thank you for bringing this to light in Will County, Executive Walsh and State's Attorney Glasgow and everybody that's been involved along the way. I hope to see more of it. I hope that we do it in more areas. And actually, I understand that if you weren't at the forum, if you couldn't attend, there's another opportunity for a public forum coming up on Wednesday, April 25th at 6 p.m. at Plainfield North High School. And many of the speakers that were at Friday's forum will be at this forum. And I encourage you to learn more about this and to advocate on raising awareness and stopping this war in our country brought to us thanks to Afghanistan.
Thank you very much, Leanne. Very appropriate comments. Very, very appropriate. Thank you.
One other comment, I just want to remind everybody that we do have a women's caucus immediately following this meeting over in the county board office. And finally, I would just like to quote my fellow county board member, Mr. Costa, by saying, Happy April.
Thank you. Minority Leader, Mr. Adamick.
Thank you, Mr. Executive and fellow board members. It's a great day to be in Will County. And Henry, we'd like to welcome you to the county board once again. You're a great asset to our board and your community. And once again, I welcome you to our board. Thank you so much for being willing to serve. April is the month we traditionally celebrate Earth Day. So I'm going to encourage each and every one of us to get out there and do something green for your community and for your county and pick up and have a great day.
Thank you, Wally. Seeing no more business, this county board will stand in recess until the hour of 9:30 a.m. on Thursday, May 17, 2012. Oh, Mr. Travis.
I want to echo this again. I really appreciate and really thank each board member that supported me, well, all the support. I just got a warm welcome this morning, and I want to thank the board for that. And I never stopped working for the board when I was off of the board. I worked with Mrs. I worked with her, Mrs. What's her name? Miss Wentworth. I can't even call her name now. I worked with Mrs. Wentworth while I was off of the board. She came up and we worked together in the community. I still work for District 8. I work for Will County. So, I'm glad to be back here. I have got a many calls telling me, you're not on the board anymore. I don't believe that you ain't on the board. I said, well, go to the meeting, you'll see. So we worked it out. So I want to thank the board for whatever they did for me. Thank you.